My inheritance has cost me. The car and gadgets are nice. And I've almost gotten used to the smell in the cave. It's the criminals. Since my father died, they've focused their attention on me.
Hey man, somebody killed this lady.
And the people around me. My father's enemies have gotten more twisted with age, more violent and suicidal.
Crashing this plane with no survivors.
Because they know their inevitable end is near. They've seen Batman die. They've seen each other die.
I can't believe they killed him. Yeah, man, things are getting really bad out here.
The Riddler.
This puzzle is far more than any mere game.
Dr. Death.
You and I go way back, Batman.
Two-Face.
I still believe in Harvey Dent.
All gone. Like the life I hoped for beyond this mask. Everything I have, everything I am, is because of him. I'm the Batman's daughter. I am the Huntress. And tonight, I'm hunting the man who destroyed my life.
Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Huntress Podcast. I'm Ashford and along with me is Laurel. Hello, Laurel.
Hello, Ashford.
And we also have Diane. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Ashford.
All right, it's good talking to you, and I want to welcome all the listeners. We're seeing a lot of an uppage in downloads, if you will. So if we have some new listeners out there that are catching up or in the future and you're now at current, welcome. We welcome you here at the Right On Network. This is the Huntress Podcast where we talk about both Helena Wayne and Helena Bertinelli. This is an even-numbered podcast, episode 46. So on this one, we're going to talk about Helena Wayne in Adventure Comics 464. I'm going to pull up these credits. We're going to talk about the one, To Everything There Is a Season. It has an 8-page count. Writer Paul Levitz. Artist Joe Staten. Letterer Ben Oda. Colorist Adrian Roy. And this was reprinted in Justice Society Volume 2 trade paperback in 2007. Also, Showcase Presents All-Star Comics trade paperback 2011. And All-Star Comics Only Legends Live Forever HC in 2019. Artists. Okay, so, and this was the whole thing, $1 amount. All right, this is like a smorgasbord of different comics, 64 page counts to be exact. Editor on all of it, Ross Adrew. It was on sale April 12th, 1979. It has a cover date of July/August 1979. This is when I was born. It's pretty interesting. Okay, so the year I was born. So let's talk about this. We did get some feedback, not only downloads, and we appreciate all the likes and retweets, but over at the website at thehuntress.podcast.com, we did receive some feedback by a Tim Price. He says, that certainly ended the storyline and, ellipsis, yeah, it ended. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. Maybe this was an homage to Silver Age stories, which would have out of the left field resolutions, but it feels like a stretch to think it was deliberate. Apologies if this is too obvious. Helena has now completed the parallel of Batman's origin with both of his parents dead. Again, maybe deliberate thematically, or maybe solely to clear the Earth 2 decks, leaving her as the Batman character, like Diane says. I'm definitely ready to get past this and start seeing Huntress getting her own adventures. Thanks, Huntrio. Diane, what do you think about this from Tim Price? Thank you for writing in, Tim.
I think those are very good points that Tim brings up. And yes, Helena Wayne's narrative, or let's just say Helena Wayne's origin, has now come full circle. So her story literally started with the death of her mother, and now it's ending with the death of her father. So her origin story started with one death and it ends with another death. So now Helena Wayne is entirely on her own. And now she is paving her road moving forward. She's now, paving the path in life that she wants. And so that's exactly what's going to be happening moving forward. So following, the death of her father, this is when her story really does start to pick up, and this is when we start seeing Helena Wayne's story really pick up in Wonder Woman as a backup feature. So that's it's around this time that we start seeing her become her own hero at this point. So the story that we're going to cover today, it's basically an interlude into what we're going to start seeing moving forward. And so, yeah, we're going to be seeing more Helena Wayne. We're going to be seeing Helena Wayne be more active in the Justice League. We're going to be seeing Helena Wayne be more active, in Gotham as the Huntress. So if she was operating in secret as the Huntress before, this is now the part where she will start operating openly as the Huntress. And I'm pretty sure Tim is going to be very excited when we get to those stories.
Well, Laurel, I think that we're going to answer a little bit more of his question as we talk about Adventure Comics 464.
Yeah, I did like his point, if I can go back, the idea that it's sort of like a Silver Age story where you have these resolutions out of left field. That was actually a good thought. That was, okay, we'll no prize it.
Yeah. So, Diane, can you give us the synopsis to this one?
Absolutely. So, Adventure Comics 464. Following the death of Bruce Wayne, Helena Wayne, Kara Zor-El, and Dick Grayson decide to hit a nightclub while Ted Grant stays behind at JSA headquarters. Thinking about where his life has taken him, Ted Grant decides on a quiet night out on the town alone. The first place Ted hits up is his old favourite pub, Bar and Grill, to reminisce about the old days. He has second thoughts, however, when he sees an all-drunken bantamweight champion thrown out of the pub and decides to keep on walking. Ted next decides to visit his old gym that he closed when he rejoined the Society, a decision he now regrets, making as he now has nothing else to call his own. As Ted dwells on his many regrets, he comes across a young man, a black boy named Charlie Bullock, who asks him about when the gym will reopen. This gives Ted pause. As Charlie walks away, Ted hears a mugging taking place nearby and responds to it as Wildcat. Though Ted put up a good fight, he is eventually overpowered and almost killed. He is only spared when Charlie comes back to his rescue. Together, he and Charlie take down the gang. Following this, Ted decides to formally introduce himself to Charlie. Back at JSA headquarters, Dick, Helena, and Kara return to the nightclub only to find Ted packing his bags, intending to leave. All three young heroes are shocked to learn Ted is moving on, but Ted insists he already fulfilled his responsibilities to the JSA, and that it is time for him to move on to a new chapter in his life. And this concludes the JSA story in Adventure Comics 464.
Thank you for that, Diane. I think, Ashford, why don't you start us off? What did you think of this sweet little story?
I thought it was cool. It was making me... because I came into reading JSA stories in the 2000s. And then I've read some where it's in the JSA early days. So I like reading this because this is that intermediate where, okay, Ted, he's not one of the young members anymore. He's starting to graduate into a senior member. So kind of seeing that in between and when that takes place, that was a joy to read. And also I was getting... some Keith vibes in the 90s. There was this orphan named Keith in the Superman books. So I was like, oh, okay, this seems quite familiar. But yeah, I enjoyed the read. I really like Ted Grant, so that's fine.
Diane, how about yourself?
Well, I felt that this was a great conclusion to the Generation story that Paul Levitz was actually telling with this first JSA run that he's been doing. So he's been kind of emphasizing ever since he introduced Helena Wayne into the JSA, he's kind of been exploring that theme of different generations of heroes. He's got the older generation that were active during World War II, and now those members are being joined by younger heroes who are either the children of existing JSA heroes or other heroes who were active during that time period. So they're being joined by fresh blood, and he's been exploring the different viewpoints of these two different generations. How do the younger generations feel about crime fighting? What is their approach to it versus what the older generation is more familiar with. So he's been exploring that theme consistently throughout his run. So now we finally get to the conclusion of that story thematically. So we just got through the death of Bruce Wayne. We just got through the funeral. We just dealt with the aftermath of that death. So now everyone is kind of starting to ease into their new roles now, especially Helena Wayne, because now she's got Gotham all to herself now. So she's no longer, having to operate in secret anymore because her father's no longer police commissioner. He can no longer keep tabs on her. So now we're entering a new era in Helena Wayne's chapter. So we just concluded the chapter where she was operating in secret all this time. Now she's going to be operating as a Huntress more openly in Gotham moving forward. So this is really where her story starts to pick off. Now, obviously, she goes on a bit of a break in this story. She decides, you know what, I'm going to take a break from being the Huntress tonight. I just went through a whole lot. I just got through my father's death. I just buried him. I think I owe it to myself to be distracted for a while. So she decides to go to a nightclub with Dick Grayson and Kara Zor-El, but then we also learn in this same page really that Dick Grayson intends to go back to Madagascar or South Africa, wherever he was actually functioning as an ambassador, as a diplomat. That's the role he's going to be returning to pretty soon. So Helena's very much being set up now to be Gotham's sole hero now. So even though Alan Scott is still there, he recently moved to Keystone to start working a new job alongside Jay Garrick in his lab. So all of this time Paul Levitz has been setting Helena up to fully take over as Gotham's sole protector. So Alan Scott is now in Keystone. He's no longer residing in Gotham because he no longer has GBC. Bruce Wayne is DC. So now there's going to be a new police commissioner coming in, and Robin is going back to Madagascar. So everything Paul Levitz has been doing has been setting Helena Wayne up to fully take on the role that she was always meant to take up, and that's exactly what we're going to be seeing. That's exactly what we're going to be seeing moving forward. So this is Helena Wayne's time to take a break, because now this is where her story really starts to pick up by the time we see her again in Adventure Comics 465. So everything is coming full circle. Helena Wayne is now fully ready to take flight. She's now fully ready to be in complete control of her own life, to be in complete charge of her own destiny moving forward.
Before I do anything serious commentary-wise, can I just put out there that Dick Grayson is wearing one of those funky medallion necklace things? It kept throwing me out of the story. I don't know about you guys. It was like, man, the fashion of the time was really something else.
You know what? It was one of those Batman cartoons. It was something Blood Justice. It was the one, I think, where they introduced Damian. And the way that they had Dick Grayson, he had like a flat necklace. I think they're called flats, like jewelry. So it kind of makes him like this, like he looks kind of like a gigolo. So it's kind of interesting that you brought up this medallion thing. It's always something like, I love Nightwing. I think he's awesome. I think he's also easy to kind of poke fun of, as far as he's kind of like this. Like sometimes he comes off not sleazy, but sleazy. So like, I know this was of the time, but it's just kind of interesting that that cartoon came out in the 2000s and they just thought, let's put a flat necklace on this guy. And it's just, when you do that, it gives it a whole different kind of connotation. And I think, I just think he's kind of easy to kind of, oh, Dick, oh boy.
Yeah, well, I kept thinking of the horrible partner the guy that wanted to be partner at the law firm. Didn't he have one of those medallion things? Of course, he had the shirt open, I think. That was his look. So I'm glad we're not doing that here, but whew, some of the fashions, I tell you what when you think about it, it's interesting because they're going to be going out to these nightclub, which, Ted feels like that's sort of upscale for him. He's much more a down-to-earth kind of guy, and I think that also comes through in his civilian clothes, which is nice. He doesn't, he's not trying to be something that he's not. I do find it funny that he's got his Wildcat costume underneath his clothes. That must be interesting to walk around double-layered all the time. But I do have a question for you guys. One more art question on Wildcat always has those flaps that hang down below his chin. Is that supposed to be buckled or something under his chin and he just never does that, or what? Because on the first page of this story, it looks like he's got an X with the ears and the flaps sticking out. Do either one of you know what that's supposed to be?
I always personally assume that they're supposed to be closed, but he just leaves those loose because he's a very loose kind of guy, He's got a very loose, fighting style, so I think that the flaps, is very much augmenting that idea that he's very loose in his style, He's loose in his style of fighting and he's loose in his style of fashion. That's how I always interpreted that.
Okay. Yeah, I never quite understood their purpose, but I think they're supposed to buckle underneath, but that's just, if anybody out there knows or has a comment, I'd love to hear it. Write in thehunterspodcast.com. Let us know. I thought this was a really sweet story. It was heartfelt, which was nice. Ted's starting to feel old, not quite sure of his place in the team anymore, so he decides, he's going to contemplate while he's out walking around. And he does find the new era for himself, because as he's headed out the door, he says, someone's got to worry about where the next generation of superheroes is coming from. I think that implies he's going to open that gym back up and make sure that he's training people who could possibly be new heroes. That, that kind of training he's completed within the Justice Society. He sort of says that, which is nice to think that the Huntress and Power Girl, he doesn't consider them rookies anymore, that he's done what he can for them, which is sweet. But yeah, I like that he's found a mission in life.
And yeah, that's where I'm used to. I'm used to Ted already in that role, cemented. Wildcat, Flash, and Alan Scott, they're already looked at as the mentors, the Mount Rushmore. So kind of seeing that transition into that role, that's new to me. So that's why this was a fun read for me. Something else that I found interesting is also on this feed, we do the Cassandra Cain Batgirl podcast. So, I always talk about how in, No Man's Land is going on. It's this long epic book, if you will. And it's nothing but chaos and craziness going on. And as you're looking at that, they're in the back door doing a backdoor pilot of, you guys don't know? We're about to make this Cassandra Cain girl. She's just a runner, a mute, if you will. She's going to be the next Batgirl, but y'all don't see it because it's all this chaos and craziness going on and whatever. And then by the time the smoke is clear, I'm Batgirl. Y'all didn't know? So now maybe if you can write in to the HuntressPodcast.com or at Huntress Podcast on Twitter, if you knew, no, they had ads, and while No Man's Land was going on, they were telling us, that character, she's going to be Batgirl. Okay. So, and that's what's interesting about this, where I'm kind of imagining someone I always follow JSA, so I'm just reading JSA and not knowing, hey, that they're transitioning this Huntress character to kind of transition and be her own character, lead the group, have her own adventures. So it might be someone I'm just reading this because I like Power Girl, or I like reading about Jay Garrick, not knowing and I'm also leveling up this Huntress podcast as you think I'm just reading this JSA book. But we're about to showcase this Huntress character, and she's not just going to be something on the side. We're about to write her up to epic proportions. So I just like how that stuff is going on as you're just reading the book.
Yeah, the ongoing saga of how their dynamics work, I think. Is that what you're trying to say?
That, and just also what if you were just, I'm just reading this because I do like Ted Grant, but you didn't know one of the motivations of like, you know, hey, when we killed the Batman character, that's not like, we're looking at this following Helena Wayne. So we're looking at the transition of she joins the group, her mother died, her father died, the decks are cleared, she's the only hero and bat hero in Gotham. Okay, now she's the person. So we are specifically looking at that. Whereas if you were just picking these books up the whole time, you're just thinking, I'm reading a teen book.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. Off mic, Diane, you said this young man, Charlie Bullock, that he reappears at some point. Can you tell us a little bit? Because I got the impression that Ted was going to be reopening his gym. I'm inferring that from the way he's sort of gleefully going out the door, that he'd start up his gym and perhaps this young man would be part of it.
I think that's a correct assumption on your part because, you know, I think that is what Ted Grant does end up doing. And yes, we are introduced to a new character here, Charlie Bullock. So at first, when you read this story, you think that this is just a one-off character for this story. But no, he does in fact actually reappear in Helena Wayne's solo stories moving forward. So he's not going to appear right away. Right now, he appears as a teenager, as a young kid, basically. But he's going to eventually join Helena Wayne's law firm as a junior associate. So he's going to eventually cross paths with Helena Wayne. So they don't meet in this story, but they will meet in the future. And future spoilers, this character is going to become Blackwing later on. So he is going to actually take up a superhero identity in the Joey Cavalieri run of the Helena Wayne Huntress era. So yes, we're jumping way ahead into the future here, but yes, Charlie Bullock is going to become an important character moving forward. We're not going to see much of him, but we are going to see him get set up into becoming a superhero called Blackwing, and Joey Cavalieri is the writer who ironically ends up picking up that story. But Paul Levitz did, you know, plant the seeds, so we're both familiar with Joey Cavalieri by this point, so we're definitely going to be excited to see what he does with this character moving forward. So yeah, Charlie Bullock, pay attention to this character. He's going to show up again.
I feel like we should put one of those first appearance of kind of things on it.
You just did.
Yes, we did. I guess so. I don't have a whole lot else because this is a short little story. It's sweet. We've got the contemplation in the civvies. We've got, you know, fight with the hoods as Wildcat. We've got a new little character coming in. Ted finding some direction. I just thought it was lovely. And the art, we say this over and over again. Joe Staton's art is just incredible.
And it looks even better. Laura, I'm just going to assume you're reading it in black and white as well. Oh my god.
Yeah, the DC Universe app or whatever they're calling it now.
DC Infinite.
But for some reason,
Infinite.
These are appearing in black and white instead of color, and boy, it really just is gorgeous.
This, wow. Just wow. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Sorry, doing that on the podcast, but you know, we also see Helena at the end. She looks wonderful. And like Ted, he has that classic leading man look.
And it's fairly distinctive. You know, I know who that is throughout the story. You know, it's just, you can tell he's a little bit older, but he's not, you know, middle-aged, maybe getting up late 40s, maybe 50. You know, he's starting to get up there, and the action sequences are good. The face, the body movements. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I can't, we keep going on about him every time.
And we're going to go on about this. So, Dick Grayson, he's wearing this cool overcoat, huge collars, huge lapels. He's wearing like a fitted turtleneck with that medallion on. This guy, I mean, wow. I'm throwing shade at him because I'm jealous. Yeah, this dude is, man, he is,
he's happening.
He's happening. It's a scene, man. And he's going clubbing with Huntress and Power Girl, but he's going to be leaving with other people. I did like at the... I'm sorry. Go ahead, Diane.
I was just going to say, he's definitely well dressed for a night at Studio 54.
The VIP. One thing I did like, I forgot at the beginning of this, and Power Girl is trying to encourage Ted to come out with them, and she says, "Come on, Wildcat. You don't want Helen and me to be the majority, do you?" And he says, "You two gals outnumber the gang of men." So that's a lot of hogwash.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because, last time it was, we shouldn't have women, they should be in the kitchen. Well, it was sort of a crack. And then we go from that to this, which is, man, they can hold up their own and dominate a group of men. So they don't need him to tag along. That. Yeah, well, that was a nice little statement at the beginning.
And you mentioned this. I like how it went from they're going to the club and he's going to go to the pub. Awesome.
Diane, you have any last words on this one?
I think we've covered all the bases. If you're a Ted Grant fan, this is a great story to read because it's very, as you said, Laurel, it's very heartfelt. This is Ted Grant realizing, okay, I'm an older member of the JSA now. I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not as effective as I used to be. I was knocked out by the thorn last time. So I think I need to start thinking about, what do I really want to be doing with my life? I feel like I've kind of wasted it because, I closed down my gym and I don't have a family. So what am I doing with my life? So I think that, he kind of got the motivation, as you said, from recent experiences that, what, I don't have what it takes to be, an effective member of the JSA anymore. But these young, women who are part of the JSA, they've got it going on. So they can handle themselves. So I think I've fulfilled my part here. I think, I'm no longer needed here, so I think I'm going to reopen my gym and, train the future generation of superheroes, one of which may or may not be Charlie Bullock, especially since I already know what's in his future. I will not be surprised. Hell, I'm just going to go on and say, I theorize he's going to be one of his first customers moving forward.
This is just awesome. I'm loving these transitions, and when I'm reading this, I'm also thinking about Jeff Johns' run. I always thought he did a good job of balancing characters, and as you're reading one arc, he's setting up the next one on the sidelines. Thought that was cool, seeing that here, where even though the baton is being passed to the younger generation, we still get this Ted Grant story. Cool stuff. What do you guys out there think about this one? Adventure Comics 464 with the JSA and Helena, just, again, the leading lady. We're seeing her in a teen book. We're about to see her graduate into her own adventures. This is awesome. That gradual release model that Paul Levitz is setting us up for. Cool stuff. Please write to us at the website at thehuntress.podcast.com. You can reach us on Twitter at Huntress Podcast. And remember, this feed also shares a feed with the Batgirl Cassandra Cain podcast and the Outcasters, where we talk about Batman and the Outsiders in the early 80s. Cool stuff. And we're on Spotify. You can support the show by going to Apple Podcasts, subscribing to the show, giving us a 5-star rating. That would be Neato Supremo. So until next time, bye-bye, everyone.